Also, welcome to those joining us via WebEx and those watching online as well. I note that online we have Councillor Irvine, Councillor Thompson, and Councillor Devine Gallagher connected online. So turning to our agenda, item 1 is apologies. Members, go ahead, Councillor Robinson.
Councillor Malcolm, apology for him.
Councillor Mahan. Councillor, thank you. Councillor Mahan's apology is recorded. And I don't have anyone else indicating. I think everyone else is accounted for in any case. So item 2 then is any declarations of interest in respect to the agenda. And I have no indications. Okay. And item 3 is to sign the minutes and confidential minutes of planning committee meetings held on 19th of November and 11th of December. And that has been done. And moving on to item 4 is to consider 2 files for decision by the planning committee. And that is paper A. And I'm going to ask Darren to introduce those applications. Application number 1, LA10 2025-0975F.
Okay, good afternoon, members. So application number 1, LA10 2025-0975, section 54 application to modify condition 9, the use of the units relating to types of goods that can be sold in unit 4 and 5 to allow the sale of convenience and comparison goods of K990576/0. It's by Sainsbury's Supermarket, and the location then is units 4 and 5, Great Northern Retail Park in Omagh. Recommendation, members, is to approve planning permission subject to planning conditions. Members, just as well, if I could move straight on to application number 2, LA10 2025-0977. It's another application by Sainsbury's Supermarkets Limited. This time it's a section 54 application to modify condition 4 relating to delivery hours of unit 5 of planning permission K021127. The recommendation on that application again is to approve subject to conditions. Just to give you an update, members, so an objection was received from Retail NI on Wednesday, the 14th of January. An objection then, another objection was received from SW Consultancy on Monday, the 19th of January, and another objection then received from MBA Planning again on Monday, the 19th. So the three representations that were received include material considerations that need to be considered. It also requires consultation with DFI Roads. DFI Roads have advised the council that they would not be in a position to reply by the meeting today with a substantive response. So on the basis of that, members, planning officers are requesting a deferral of the application for 1 month to allow the 3 representations to be considered. The application then will be returned to the meeting on the 18th of February. So a deferral for 1 month.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Darren. Go ahead, Councillor Robinson.
You're looking for a proposal, Chair. I'll propose to refer for 1 month.
A proposal to defer. Thank you. Councillor McCann.
Yeah, happy to second that, Chair.
Happy to second that. So that's been proposed and seconded. And do members agree? We're all in agreement. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just to confirm then, application number 1, LA10 2025-0975F, and application number 2, LA10 2025-0977F, have both been deferred to be returned to the next committee meeting on the 18th of February.
Thank you, Darren. Moving on to item 5 of our agenda, and that's to consider 1 file for decision by the planning committee. That's paper B, and that's application number 1, LA10 2024-1085F. 1084, sorry, F, and Darren's going to introduce the application. Sorry, apologies, Seamus will take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. So, application number 1, LA 10 2024 1084 F is for a proposed site for pardon me, solar photovoltaic panel array fixed on ground standing metal frames. The applicant is Ines Heaney. It's located at 75 metres northwest of the A5 service station at 135 Corr Road, Barra, and the recommendation is to approve planning. So you'll see on the first side there, members, the application site is an irregular shaped site sitting in the northern corner of an agricultural field. The slide in front of you shows the outline of the array panels located in this part of the field. Access is to be off the Greenmount Road, the more minor Greenmount Road to the south along the western site boundary, while the road to the northeast is the main A5, the Corr Road. This plan also gives an indication of, in the blue line you can see there, more or less alongside the A5 is how the power generated from the panels will be transported to the necessary equipment, inverters and other equipment used to harness the power, store it and use it in the shop and service station that exists. Move on to the next slide. There's an aerial image of the premises at the A5 filling station. You can see the Greenmount Road to the south, the Corr Road to the northeast, and you can see an impression of the solar panels there sitting in the field. This is a zoomed in image of the same, showing the panels in a little bit more detail. Obviously this is an impression of how they will look. The panels aren't in place as yet, subject obviously to plan. This shows a bit of greater detail of the service station where the panels will be, or where the panels are up to the west, but this image is showing that the A5, the cellar or the basement of the A5 filling station is where the inverters and associated equipment is to be, and this is where any power generated is to be transferred to and used, stored, or in the future perhaps grid connection secured for the use of the power. This is an outline of the panels themselves. Gives you they're typical of a solar panel. They're set up on a steel frame, sitting at an angle to achieve the best use of the sunlight. Dimensions of them, they are approximately 3.65 meters high at their highest point, that being at the back, and approximately 2.5 meters high at the front. There's an impression then of the panels when traveling along, the top images when traveling along the A5 towards the proposed site, and you get an impression of the panels in the field. The lower image then is how they will look, or they're perceived to look, from the Greenmount Road when, I suppose, standing on the road looking in directly at the field. Landscaping plan. So it's also proposed as part of the scheme to have a native hedgerow along the southern perimeter of the area, as well as the northern and eastern perimeters of the site boundary. I have noted that the proposed planting is to be maintained when growing at a minimum height of 4 meters, and it's considered this will effectively screen the proposed panels from the nearby transport receptors, that being as you're passing along either road, that the view of these panels will be mitigated and not that they won't be that visible. From the analysis and discussions contained within the submitted glint and glare assessment, it's not considered that there will be any hazardous glint or glare effects upon road receptors or road users. So the recommendation is to approve planning permission subject to the suggested conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Seamus. Thank you, Seamus. So I invite any questions or comments in relation to the application at this point. Go ahead, Councillor Rennie.
Well, thank you for that there, Chairman, and yourself, Seamus. This is just almost on my doorstep, this here, and I'm really trying to get my head around it as well. And the power from that, from the field to the overhead line, you know, the line. I understood that that line is running at full capacity, and I wasn't sure, or as a matter of fact, I'm sure about that because of other applications that have been approved for that. And I'm not clear about how it's going to be fed into a line that's run at full capacity. And then it seems to be coming back across the road again, if I can follow all those diagrams properly. And whilst I am not involved in this at all, but there seems to be something going on, you know, amongst the immediate area. I hear all sorts of sounding. I said I was going to stay well clear of it. I'm not in a position to answer any questions about it, but it'll have a stay in court here. But those are the things that I see for myself, and I'm wondering how they're going to be overcome as crossing the existing A5 on two different locations. It's coming from, yeah.
Okay, thank you, councillor.
Maybe you would take us through that again gently,
Yeah.
that I would really fully understand that.
It's not proposed to enter the grid, councillor. What has been proposed here is that the power generated will be used to service or to provide power for the filling station and the diner and other businesses operating at that point. The blue line here is indicating it's a cable that's to be buried and transport that power. There's inverters and other ancillary equipment to be housed in the basement of those buildings, to either inverters to store the power and batteries or use it. Now,
This will be consumed on that same side.
yes. There's no proposal at this stage to enter the grid. So your assumptions on the grid being at full power may be correct. I'm not, to be honest, 100% sure, because there's no proposal to enter the grid as part of this. So it's all self-contained within the applicant's land and to be used at source at this stage. Now there's mention that this will, in time of grid capacity, becomes available, but at this stage that doesn't form part of the proposal.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I am definitely of the opinion, but the size of this application, it's a very major application in our area, that we should, that it would be applicable to have a site meeting, and people would really get up to speed and understand exactly what it is. I'm only guessing and gauging the amount of acrimony that there is, and of course it was up to those objectors to come along and speak for themselves. But I am forwarding exactly what I hear about this, and I would have felt that this here really deserved an on-site meeting for people to really fully understand what is taking place there.
Okay, thank you, councillor. I'll take that as a proposal. Councillor Rainey, thank you. Councillor McCann.
You chair, yeah, and I wouldn't be against a site meeting, and I suppose they've always got merit whenever you go out and see something in the flesh as such. There's 18 representations. Are these all objections to this application?
Yes,
And
they're all objections.
maybe just show us, if you can. I know it's here, but maybe just touch, maybe if you can, some of the key themes and how we've addressed them, maybe, and how we've worked to overcome them to get this approval.
Well, there's a variety of different points raised in the objections. There's visual impact, property value, loss of agricultural land, I'm just giving you a few glint and glare impact. We have a variety of studies in. I'll go to the glint and glare. Like there's a glint and glare impact study assessment has been submitted, and we have had regard to that. Road service have been consulted on that, and they are content that there won't be an undue impact on road users, I suppose, especially on the main A5 road. The visual impact, we're content that the proposed screening and the proposed planting, which will be secured if approved by a condition, that'll address that. The incorrect ownership and address, and that has all been thrashed out through the processing of the application. It didn't fall within the scope or didn't need, it was assessed for an environmental statement, but wasn't found to need it. In terms of the landscape and visual, again, on assessment, it was in a low-lying area. This is in a low-lying field. Again, we have assessed the scale of it, the apparatus involved, and are content as planners that there's no significant visual impact here that will be to the detriment of the area. Biodiversity, a lot of these solar farms, and this is the same, that animals can continue to graze on this. These things can operate in harmony with agriculture as such. So there's a variety of different issues here. As we have assessed it, we're content that these issues have been overcome or adequately assessed and addressed through the report and the information submitted.
100%. I suppose in the spirit of completeness, and I suppose site visits are part of the planning process, I'd be happy to second Councillor Rooney's proposal, and I would aim to be there if this is approved or accepted. I aim to be there on site if I can, you know. So it's always good to get out.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McCann. So that proposal by Councillor Rainey for a site visit has been seconded. Councillor McCann, is members in agreement with that? All agreement. Okay, thank you. Just going to ask Paul to come in a second here.
I think the discussions probably went on about members, but the planning committee protocol talks about site visits. Ultimately, it's a matter for members. They make that decision. You know, it talks about site visits should ultimately be by exception because they are resource intensive and delays applications. I think we've set out, you know, the reasons why the landscape here is not sensitive in terms of our own LDP studies and all. So, look, it's ultimately a matter for members to go and inform themselves if they feel a site visit's necessary. I think officers' view would be that it wouldn't be necessary, and all the details are set out. It's certainly not a sensitive part of the landscape, and the visual impacts have been mitigated, but ultimately a matter for members. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Paul. We have put that to the committee and I suppose unanimously agreed. I would ask maybe Darren to sum up, unless anyone interjects at this point. Or sorry, Seamus.
So the recommendation was to approve planning permission. Members have decided that the application be deferred to allow for a site visit to take place.
Thank you. Apologies, Seamus. I just forced
All right.
You'd look across more often. Okay, members, thank you. Item 6 on our agenda is to consider a notification, to consider notification of proposed works, that's paper C, and LA10 2026-0010 PAD. And that's going to be introduced by Darren. Oh, yeah. Is there some speakers in respect to this application? Maybe we could ask them to come in then. They may not be aware. Yeah. I wasn't aware of that. That's right. Yeah, that's. Support. Okay. We doing anything forward yet? Yeah, we can. I suppose no difference. If it's convenient, you could come in here. There's two speakers, just here. You know it. It might save you moving. Yeah. Okay. So just to say, we're moving on to item 6 on our agenda, and that's to consider notification of proposed work. That's paper C on our notes. Notification of proposed exploratory grilling under permitted development, LA 10 2026 0010 PAD. And I'm going to ask Darren to take us through the application.
Okay, members. So the notification then is of a proposed exploratory drilling under permitted development. The reference is LA 10 2026 0010 PAD. Just to confirm to members, this is not a PAD, so it's not a pre-application discussion. The application reference number includes the letters PAD as a suffix because that's the only way we have of recording it on the portal and on the system. There is no separate suffix for PD notifications. So this is not a PAD. This is a notification of exploratory drilling. So just to be clear on that. The applicant then is by Flintridge Resources Limited. The location then is north of the Cabinet Call Gold Mine on lands approximately 310 metres east of number 60 Botter Upper Road. And the recommendation of officers is not to issue a direction. Just to provide you with an update, members, the consultees then, following the publication of the report, NIEA has responded with comments. So Water Management Unit, Drinking Water Inspector and Regulation Unit have all replied. Their comments are there. I've read through those all, and the outcome of those comments really are confirming that their NIEA, as a corporate body, considered to be content with the proposed drilling works and have no issues with it. As you see, SES were outstanding. They have also now replied. I'll come on to them in a second. NI Water has also replied. They say the proposed development may have a significant impact on existing NI Water infrastructure. Consultation with NI Water is required by means of a PDE, a pre-development inquiry, in advance of any design. This will establish if there is available capacity within the existing NI Water infrastructure to serve this proposal. However, the comments of NI Water are misinformed because there's no proposal to connect to the NI Water infrastructure. So the comments really aren't relevant to the notification. In terms then of the shared environmental services, they have now responded. You can see there on the 20th of January, they helpfully responded back to the council. And I'd like to put on record a thanks to all the consultees for replying so quickly on this. So the response from SES is that following appropriate assessment, they advise that the project would not have an adverse effect on the integrity of any European site, whether alone or in combination. It's recommended the Habitats Regulation Assessment Report by SES and its conclusions are adopted by the council. As the planning officers have reviewed the report and the conclusions and consider that they should be adopted, that the project would not have an adverse effect on the integrity of any European site. In terms then of our proposal, the Cabinet Call Mine, you can see the location there, members, in relation to Oma, out to Dromore Road, and the site then has planning history. So the main mine site has approval in May 95. They were granted permission for extraction of gold, silver and other minerals in an open cast pit, reference K92. And then there was another application then, reference K120373, which gave additional works at it. The site, though, is not within the main mine site. It's outside the mine site on another location. The planning history on that location relates to the two cases you can see on the screen. So the first notification, LA 10 2024-355, was by the company that they were going to drill 3 boreholes under the notification. In May 2024, the council did not issue a direction for those 3 boreholes. The applicant then applied again in 2025-0773 and notified the council again of the same 3 drill holes, or same 3 boreholes on the exact same site. And in August 2025, the council issued a direction that the work should not be permitted development, but a planning application should be submitted. The current application, or the current notification, then is the exact same as those previous 2. Location then of the drill holes, you can see the location roughly in the area of red, with the main mine site then to the south. It's in agricultural lands with the bogland identified by the yellow star, and the site is well away from that. The drill hole locations are included within the notification. There are 3 locations and they're shown on the screen there along with the length of the drill holes as well, and the other information there in respect of them. The actual locations then, the color locations, that's the grid references. You can see there, the first one is 240180 and then 371575. The 3 dots on the left-hand map show where those will be located, and then I've superimposed those as best I can over the aerial flyover image, which shows the rough position on the ground by the 3 red dots. So as members will be aware, the council has the power, if it is satisfied that it's expedient to do so, that the works should not be carried out under permitted development rights, but they should be carried out on a grant of application. In other words, the council has the power to say you can't do these unless you apply for planning permission and get planning permission. However, that is not an unrestricted power. The legislation sets out when we can do this as a council, and you can see there are criteria A, B, C, and D apply. So in terms of A, you'll note from the report, the site is not within any of those areas or does not affect any of those areas. In terms of B then, the development taken by itself or in conjunction with other development would cause serious detriment to the amenity of the area. C then is the development would constitute a serious nuisance to inhabitants of nearby residential buildings, hospitals or schools. Or D, the development would endanger aircraft using a nearby airport. So in terms then, members, of the impact upon neighbours, because that's obviously an important material consideration in deciding this notification. So the drill holes then, you can see on the left-hand side, roughly the position of the drill holes and the distances they are then from the dwelling itself. The nearest dwelling is a red star, so you're talking about 136, 129 and 126 metres away. The drilling itself then is a temporary drilling. It's for 16 weeks maximum, and the drilling times will be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 a.m. to 7:1 p.m. on Saturdays, and no drilling on Sundays. And I'm sure the speakers will go into detail on what exactly that will entail. Other than nearby dwellings then, you can see other properties in the locality are a significant distance away, so over 200 metres, over 360 and 340 metres away to the west and south. So as members, we as a council do have the power to restrict the permitted development rights that are available to a party, but there's a series of tests that must be complied with. So it must be considered to be expedient that the development should be granted on an application, and we must give a reason why. So in terms of B, the impact upon the amenity of the area, the test is there's a serious detriment, and the impact upon nearby residential buildings, it's a serious nuisance. In terms of those two things, those two issues, and the impact upon the amenity of neighbours, the Council Planning Department consulted with Environmental Health Service, and they have replied that they are generally content with the proposal in terms of potential noise impact, and have considered the time scale of the drilling operations, time of drilling, noise standards for drilling operations, as well as the mitigations proposed. So Environmental Health, who have replied to the proposal, have advised they are generally content. So in terms of B and C, the view of planning officers would be that there's not a serious detriment to the amenity of the area, and there's not a serious nuisance to inhabitants of nearby residential buildings, and therefore it's not expedient to issue a direction. Just to remind members that when making a decision on an application or a notification that is contrary to the advice of a planning consultee, including officers, introduces a specific requirements for transparency. So there needs to be a cogent reason. So when a decision maker departs from consultee's views, they must have cogent and compelling reasons to do so, and that must be fully documented within the minutes and recorded. So councillors must explain their reasons for not agreeing with officer recommendations or the statute and consultee advice. So as I say, members, you do have the power to issue direction. The important thing today, and I will assist you with this if that is your views, is that you have to demonstrate it's expedient to issue the direction, and the reason being that it falls within one of the 4 categories or more than one category, and sets out a reason why you consider that there is expedient to issue a direction.
Okay, thank you, Darren. And members, there is speaking rights in respect of this application. So at this point, I would welcome Mr. Ronan Conway in support of the application, and also Dr. Sarah Coulter as well in support of the application. We have 10 minutes. You're both very welcome. We have 10 minutes allocated to this part of the meeting, as you're aware maybe. So if you just introduce yourselves and decide how to apportion that time, I'll let you know when we've reached 9 minutes and in your own time. Thank you.
First on something.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And really, Ronan and I are here primarily to answer any of the questions that you may have specifically on this notification. I submitted the notification and has been already highlighted that this is the same 3 holes that we have applied for previously on 2 occasions. So the 3 holes are just off the site, about 100 metres north of the mine site. And the plan would be to drill them. Obviously, the permitted development would give us 16 weeks, but I anticipate they shouldn't take longer than 10 weeks. And really, we're going to be operating a closed system, which means we're going to be circulating the water. It's not going to be escaping into any nearby watercourses. We will create a sump to gather any fine material that is brought up to the surface, and we'll dispose of that appropriately. So if anybody has any questions on the sort of technical side of the operation, I'd be very happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to thank the committee and the council for the opportunity of speaking here today. As been pointed out both by John and by Sarah, this is the 3rd time that this application has been before the council. The first time we received the unanimous support for the application. Due to financial constraints of the company at the time, we didn't get the opportunity to drill those holes. And then when we came back last August, we were caught on a hung vote, with the chairman having the casting vote under normal protocol. I've been with this project for 18 years. I'm from Oma. I was born and raised within 5 miles of the mine site. It's a project I'm very proud of. I'm very proud to be associated with, and I think the long-term benefits, past, present, and future, of the project are immense and of great benefit to the town of Oma and the wider community generally, local businesses, the opportunity for local employment, etc. I was sent a copy of an article by a colleague that appeared in the Meath Chronicle, and it was to regard to Tara Mines' planning application to extend their underground workings in their lead zinc mine down there. The first thing I'd like to say on that is I think there's a bit of a perception issue exists with the inclusion of the word gold. But I can assure you that the extraction process employed is the same. We're basically both looking to win ore, both using cut and blast techniques, drill and blast techniques for getting the ore out of the ground. Both projects employ exactly the same methodology and technology for the winning of that ore and the minerals within it. And that's froth flotation. No cyanide, no leaching, none of that. So it's the same technology, the same methodology that we're employing in Oma as is employed in Tara Mines. And if I could just give you an extract from that article. Navan's growth as a town over the past 50 years can be directly attributed to the opening of Tara Mines. Workers came from all over for employment, and many local businesses thrived or were set up to trade directly with the mine. It is an integral part of the local economy, not just in Navan, but right across the region. It goes on, then Tara Deep is a much better quality than what's now being mined, and any move towards extraction will secure jobs and local commerce for several decades to come. This is good news for Bolton workers and local businesses who depend on the mine for trade. We fully support this application, and we look forward to the benefits it will bring to the county for many years to come. And that's from the Navan Mayor, Councillor Eddie Fennessy, Sinn Féin. And it's great to see that they recognise, the contribution that it has made. And as I say, I think perception possibly is an issue. And what I would like to appeal to the committee members is when you're voting on this this proposal, that it is just this proposal. It is just an application for 3 boreholes. Tara Bolton have drilled many hundreds of these in Navan, many hundreds, to find out what the makeup of the mineralogy is and what exactly exists there. And again, I go back to perception and wording and the labelling as a gold mine. By quantity, our greatest metal contained in our concentrate is iron, Fe. Next to that is lead. Following that is silver. So far, we're in a great parallel with Tara. And finally, gold. There's also trace elements of copper. We may find more copper in these exploration boreholes once we have it analysed. We won't know until we carry that work out. But I would ask that professionalism engaged and outside opinions or getting the issue conflated with other developments within the council area, other applications that are going through process within the council area that have nothing got to do with ourselves. We're not involved in them in any shape or form. But if you could just focus solely and set your mind on these particular issues here and not try and introduce any tenuous arguments surrounding the exemptions that apply for disallowing permitted development. The perception of permitted development is automatically granted unless there's a good reason not to. And, if the planning officer has outlined, he's gone through the proposal, he's familiar with the legislation, and he's outlined that he recommends that a direction is not issued. That's his professional opinion. He's trained in this matter and employed by the council to give that advice. If people can't set those separate issues aside or those perceptions aside, I would respectfully suggest that perhaps they abstain from a vote and allow these works to be carried out. It's a short period of time. I would also point out that the landowner is supportive of this application. He's also our neighbour. That's really all I have to say, and I appreciate your taking the time to listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and within the 10 minutes, so appreciate that. And any questions at this point for, sorry, I would just at this point, also just to be clear and to have absolute clarity, members are only considering the planning applications before them as we do on a a monthly basis, you know, so that's sort of, should go without saying, but I'll state that we only consider the application before us. Councillor McCann.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and you're welcome back, folks. Just a quick comment, and not so much a question, because we've obviously been through it all a number of times in the past, but I'm aware of the Tower Mines application, and I suppose we hear at this chamber and in OMA almost monthly that no two planning applications are the same. You know, everyone's different, and everyone deserves scrutiny as in what is presented before them. So I suppose this committee does have the right to interrogate the detail and to ask the questions that might be difficult and to come to conclusions that mightn't always be agreeable out there. And just myself personally, and I know that there's other members here as well, I certainly don't take well being told maybe how to vote. I know you might mean any offence by that, but you know, we make our own conclusions as to what we will vote, and I certainly don't take any direction from a speaker as to how I may or may not vote.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Yeah, Chair, I'd just like to follow up on that as well. It's certainly disturbing to find the speaker coming in here and questioning the ability and the integrity of this committee to be able to vote, and to instruct them that they might think of abstaining if they couldn't do their job. I certainly, Chair, don't take to that as a way of going forward, and I certainly would ask you that this is not an acceptable way to come in and treat committee members in this committee, in this council, or indeed in any other council. We are here to be able to do the job that we're mandated to do. We listen to all sides and we make the decision having taken advice from all parties. And for somebody to come in here and sit in front of us and tell us that we're not doing that in a professional way, and that we should maybe consider abstaining from a vote, is certainly not something that should be tolerated in any committee.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. And I suppose, I mean, I have said what I've said, and if members are reinforcing that, that's fine. We do take the application and we consider it against, you know, policy, and we do consider it. We do consider every application in its own right. So, members, I would ask that we have an opportunity, with all that being said, while the speakers are present, if we have any questions in respect of what they've said, to come ahead and ask those. Councillor McLahry.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'm interested in the timeline. I'm assuming it'll be one hole at a time, so you're talking 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks per hole. I seem to remember from hearing this application before, it's some sort of specialist drilling equipment that you're bringing in that is a lot quieter than previous equipment. I wonder if you could just refresh us on that, and again, explain the process. It will be moved from one hole to the other. Will all three be at the one time?
Yeah, so it's an industry standard drill rig that we'll be using, and we would be transporting that rig onto the site. It's track mounted, so that should be easy enough to do with very little disturbance. There'll also be a Maruka, which we'll use to transport the drill rods. And each hole will be done one after the other. So yes, we anticipate about 3 weeks for each of those holes individually. The drill pads are quite close together, so there won't be a big distance for us to have to move the rig. They're between 25 and 35 meters apart.
Thank you. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Chair. My question is just around, the last applications, the company wasn't financially equipped to bore the holes. And what has changed since that? And the other question, you mentioned the article and to do with the Tower Mines, and they have drilled hundreds you said that they had drilled hundreds of holes. How many holes have you drilled over this past 20, 30 years? Just to, thank you.
I'll address the first part of your answer, and I'll let Sarah take the second part of it. In terms of the financial aspect, the parent company of Flint Ridge Resources had been Galantis Gold Corporation. They were a dual listed company in the Toronto Stock Exchange and the AIM Exchange in London. Since then, completed in September, was a restructuring where one of the largest secured debt holder of the company took a 80% ownership of the operating company, Flint Ridge. The details of that deal have been released in a press release and are publicly available for anybody who wants to delve deeper into the nuts and bolts and mechanism of that deal. But essentially, the new operating owners are a company called Ocean Partners UK Limited. They're based in London. They're directors of various different UK-based, Irish-based, and US-based. They've been very supportive of the business and have been involved with the business from 2017. And we've worked with Ocean Partners from that time. So from a local point of view, it gives us great opportunity with that refinancing to progress the business and move it forward, and to clear some of the issues and deal some of the issues we had with outstanding debt. So that's basically the outline of where we are now and how we got here in terms of the financing, etc. And I'll pass over to colleague Sarah just on the drill hole detail.
So there's approximately 350 holes have been drilled on the site in total. That's including all the historic holes from Rio Phoenix time. So most of those are concentrated in a small enough area around the two main veins, the Joshua and the Carney vein, where we're proposing to drill with this notification is, as I say, about 100 metres to the north of the site, where there has been very little drilling. And what has been done is historic and very shallow.
Thank you, Chair. So you have been before the council on a lot of occasions then getting permission to drill boreholes, and have you always had a direction or no direction or?
No, we certainly haven't always been before the council. Historically, I can't speak of before my time. Some of these holes, a lot of these holes that Sarah was speaking of were sort of in around the 1980s, even possibly as early as the late 1970s, when exploration work first began on the Cavanaugh site. In the period after that, there never had been an issue with getting permitted development rights. We had always enjoyed the support of the council in allowing permitted development rights, and no directions had been issued. That's a relatively recent development in the process that we faced, where the council have issued direction. As I say, we were here in 2024 with exactly the same criteria, with exactly the same application, and did enjoy the unanimous support not to issue direction for the permitted development.
Thank you. I'm watching online here as well, and in the chamber, if anyone else is indicating that they wish to speak at this point. And with nobody indicating then, in that case, I would thank Mr. Conway and Dr. Coulter for addressing the committee and invite you to, I say return to the gallery, but you can maybe take your seats in the gallery at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. An opportunity now for any comments from officers. Go ahead, Darren.
Yes, members, just to follow up just on some of those comments made and remind members that this is not a planning application. This is a notification of intended works as permitted development. And the council has the power then to say, no, you can't do them as permitted development. You should submit a planning application. And then that application will be decided by the council and either approved or refused. So at this stage, really, it's a direction. How, in terms of the tests of when you can issue a direction, they're set out within the legislation and have gone through those. Don't propose to repeat those. Excuse me, but what I would stress, members, is that you look at this notification against the legislation, other comments relating to other mines, other issues, economic benefits, all of those things, members, are not relevant. The key question for you today is, do you consider it expedient that the development should not be carried out unless planning permission is granted? And then the 4 reasons where you can say that you consider that to be the case. So hopefully that's clear, members, to everybody. But as I say, this is a notification, not a planning application, so you can set aside all the issues about those other mines and benefits, etc.
Thank you, Darren. Councillor McCann.
Thanks, Chair. A couple of questions. So in May 24, this council didn't issue a direction, and due to the financial situation of the company, that wasn't progressed. Is that right? So they came back in then in August 25 with an application, and at that particular meeting, it was agreed by this council to issue a direction. Maybe just talking that, Darren, maybe so the concerns at that time, I wasn't at that meeting, I was just off the committee at that stage, so I know there was concerns raised by a number of members in relation to nuisances, and that went to the vote and obviously was passed at that stage. So what happened to that application then? So did it not come in, or was it assessed, or what was the story with that?
So just to be clear, members, the planning history on this site, there's a notification, exact same as we have today, a notification in May 24, and then another notification in August 24. This is the 3rd notification on the same site. The first one, the council didn't issue a direction. The second one, the council did issue a direction. And the reason the direction was issued because members considered that it was expedient to issue our direction because of criteria B and C in terms of the amenity of the area, and in particular the comments of the member at the time related to the nuisance to the nearby residential buildings. So those were the 2 issues that were picked up on in the proposal, and that was carried forward. And the council issued a direction that went to the department, and the department looked at that and didn't disallow the direction. So they agreed, and that was fine. So first one, no direction issued. Second one, direction issued. This is another notification for the exact same thing. The only thing really that I can see that has changed, members, is there's some more information in terms of the mitigation measures that will be provided as part of the drilling. There's also a contact name now of the chief geologist, so that if the neighbours do have a complaint, they have somebody to lift the phone and ring and speak to. That's the real change that I can see in respect of the notification. Say, members, you make your own decision. You're well informed. You've been trained. You're open to make a decision here today, and I have no problem with that. And we will support you in that decision. The only thing I would stress is that it has to be supported by a proper reason why you consider it expedient, and that's where the tests are set out in that legislation in front of you. Reminder that Environmental Health, who are here today and happy to take questions if you need them, are saying they're generally content with the proposal.
So, Chair, just to go back. Sorry, Chair, just to go back on that. So my question was, the direction was issued by this council, which was that the applicant should issue or should submit a plan application. So why wasn't that done? So why are we back today again? My question is, why are we back looking the same thing again whenever in August 25, this chamber sent out a message that you must send in a plan application?
That would have been a question for the applicant. I don't know why they didn't apply. We can't, as a council, make them apply. We as a council issued the direction. The person that sent in the notification then has a decision to make. Do they make a planning application or not? In this case, they've decided no, they don't want to. They're quite entitled, and there's nothing to stop them putting in a notification. And nothing should be read into that, and that shouldn't influence your decision here today. They are legally entitled to issue or to send another notification. After today, if a direction is issued, they could put another one in tomorrow. So that's not going to affect your decision here today.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you. Any further questions or comments at this stage? Okay, members. We do have a recommendation, obviously, in respect of the application, not to issue a direction. But as yet, no proposals in respect of the application. Go ahead, Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I am of the view, and having read the minutes of the last council meeting, last planning committee meeting in August 25, I would agree with that particular outcome, that a direction should be issued. And the issues there are obviously around the neighbours and serious disturbances and serious issues in terms of amenity. I also have to say, Chair, in the applicant's comments, his attempt to obviously strong arm him, I believe, this committee into reaching a decision on how they may or may not vote. I have an issue with that as well, and how that influences our decision here today. I think that the only way now we can deal with this is to submit a plan application and deal with this outside the realms of this committee, so as to avoid any conflict of attempting to strong arm a committee into making a certain decision either way. I do have an issue with the way that he attempted to advise people how they may or may not vote. And I think that is an implication on how we can reach a decision on this application. He referenced obviously Tara Mines, and I take Darren's point that is not relevant to this, but there was obviously a number of serious objections to that particular application as well. But I think that this council came to the right decision in August. We have a number of heavy documents in front of us for determination, and it shows that the level of detail and information that goes into this particular outcome here today that we're looking for direction. This should be put before the council in a full application where everything can be teased out as per policies. I note that the department, from Darren's comments, didn't disallow the direction, so I have no issue then. So in proposing that we issue the direction as of August 25 and remain consistent in that particular approach.
Okay, Councillor, so that's a proposal.
Sorry, Chair, could I just jump in here? Remember to say my role is to give you advice, but also to try and keep everybody right and keep the council right. So just to confirm there, in some of the comments made, I've confirmed with the members that the comments of the speakers in terms of trying to strong arm the committee, that's not affecting your decision today. You're making your decision based upon the planning report and the legislation as you're required to do. I think that's the members' position on that when we're making a decision, especially proposing this. In terms of proposing this, members, you have gone through it, members, and you've included that in your discussion. If I can maybe summarise what you're saying is that you consider it expedient that an application should be submitted for this because there's a serious detriment to the amenity of the area or a serious nuisance to the inhabitants of nearby residential buildings. And that's the justification why you're going forward with your proposal. If you want to maybe just comment.
That's exactly it. I think that's the approach. That was the outcome of August and after lengthy discussion. So I don't want to go into that whole thing again. I believe that was the right decision. And I note that the department didn't disallow that. So I'm happy to propose that. Obviously, what you've just said as well.
Yeah. Just being careful, members, obviously the previous decision is material and it is relevant, but we're making a decision here today based on today's notification.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is important to be aware of that, but there was also the first one where direction wasn't issued. So this notification we've in, members, we're looking at that only, and I think the views and comments you've given on that. If the proposal will also just like to comment on the screen, you can see the comments of environmental health and how you're going contrary to a consultee's comments and whether you have any views on that.
I suppose that a full plan application would tease everything out, together. My main concern would be the potential impact on residents. That can't be overlooked in my view, Darren. So I think that these can all be teased out to a full plan application. Did it be looked at, holistically together?
Thank you. Thank you. And I suppose we have stated previously, we are dealing with this notification and leaving aside any other comments in respect of other applications, etc. So that proposal has been made by Councillor McCann, that we do issue a direction contrary to the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Feely.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, members. So, members, we go ahead. Councillor McGrath, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose going back to the previous application where there was no direction given, we were kind of all agreed on it at that time. And I suppose when you're being trained up to be on the committee, it's all about, consistency, have the, do the same thing and, don't be changing about too. I know things change, but I'd just like to propose to go with the council's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. That's a proposal in support of the officer's recommendation by councillor McGrath. So we have a seconder for that. I bring in our lead planner now, Paul McDermott, just make comment.
Yeah, and it's really just following on from Darren's comments, members. I think we need to be very, very careful here. Darren has put up the test within the legislation, and that is the matters that we need to be considering specifically on this notification that's before us. So there may be previous notifications which have been similar, but there's been further information submitted as part of this notification. So your decision today needs to be entirely based on the matters that's before you and the papers that's before you and the advice that Darren has given. Any reference, and I know the speaker, members are concerned the way the speaker has approached the discussion and the speaking rights. That is not material, the decision before you, members. What is before you is a criteria that Darren has set out within the presentation, and it's very narrow issues just in the legislation. So all the matters that you can take into account are within the papers, members, and I think your decision needs to be based on all that's before you at the minute and not any previous notifications. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. And Councillor Irvine has indicated online. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was just trying to unmute myself and get in. I've listened to both sides, and I agree with Councillor McGrath. We have to go with the recommendation coming from our officers rather than going against statutory consultees. So I'm happy to second his proposal. Thank you.
Okay, just to advise Councillor that had been seconded already by Councillor Rainey. I'll take your comments as support of that proposal. We do have two proposals currently to be considered. We have a proposal contrary to the officer's recommendation by Councillor McCann, seconded by Councillor Feely, and we also have a proposal in support of the officer's recommendation by Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Rainey. I will take the proposal that was seconded first, and I think I'll assume that we are not in agreement, but not in agreement with that proposal, so I will put that to a vote. So I'll take a show of hands in support of Councillor McCann's proposal. Okay, those indicating in the chamber in support are Councillor McCann, Councillor Feely and Councillor Campbell. Those indicating online are Councillor Devine Gallagher. And I'll take a show of hands, those against the proposal by Councillor McCann. Those indicating in the chamber are Councillor Rainey, Councillor McClahary, Councillor Robinson, Councillor McGrath, Councillor McGuire, Councillor O'Reilly and those online indicating against, apologies, is Councillor Thompson and Councillor Irvine. So that proposal then falls, members. I bring Paul in again, sorry.
So members, I suppose just before we move on to the second proposal of Councillor McGrath, I think it would be useful for Councillor McGrath just to clarify that, you know, his recommendation is to go with the officer's recommendation for the reasons listed within the report. And just to clarify that. Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, happy enough, Chair. Thank you.
That's been clarified. And that has been seconded, yes, by Councillor Rainey. And again, I said, well, I asked, is everyone in agreement at this point? I assume that's not the case. So we're not in agreement, as predicted, as we can understand with the two conflicting proposals. So I ask for a show of hands of those in support of Councillor McGrath's proposal. Those in support in the chamber is Councillor Rainey, Councillor McClahary, Councillor Robinson, Councillor McGrath, Councillor Maguire and Councillor O'Reilly. And those online in support is Councillor Thompson and Councillor Irvine. And for completeness, a show of those opposed to the application, or the proposal, sorry. And those indicating in the chamber are Councillor McCann, Councillor Freely, Councillor Campbell, and indicating online is Councillor Devine Gallagher, and that proposal has been carried. And I would ask Darren to sum up that notification.
Okay, members, so in reference to LA 10 2026 0010, the recommendation of officers was that the council should not issue a direction. Members have agreed that a direction will not be issued. Next step, members, is, as I say, we have to notify the department. I understand. Yes. So the direction means then that the application for planning permission is not required and the works can be carried out as permitted development.
Thank you, Darren. Returning to our agenda, members, is item 7, and that is to note the schedule of planning decisions issued in December 2025, and that is Paper D. Paul, is it? Paul will take us through that first word.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Members, so that's Paper D then, it's planning decisions issued in December. And it's all set out then basically within the table members in the breakdown. So there's 84 planning decisions issued, 71 of those related to planning applications. And I suppose a particular note within the report there, members, is that there were 6 pads received and 6 were concluded as well. So seems to be good uptake on our pad system at the minute, which is positive. So just for noting, Chair, thank you.
That is encouraging. Well, take a proposal to note. Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McGrath. Thank you. Item 8 then is to note an update report on planning enforcement for December 2025, and that's Paper E. And Paul will bring us through that paper as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So Paper E then, members, is an update on planning enforcement during December 25. Part 2 members then says we have issued 2 notices. One's in relation to an unauthorised poultry unit in Laneway, and then the others in relation to hardcore yard storage containers and access in Laneway. There's 11 enforcement cases closed in December with 22 new cases open. So quite a few cases to be opened in what is a relatively short month of December, members. So it just shows you that enforcement is becoming, I suppose, a key stream in the business, and the public are certainly more active in terms of reporting cases. The details of the breakdown of the cases then, members, that's been closed is set out in paragraph 2.3. And then the 22 new cases opened, 14 of those are in relation to unauthorised operational developments, 7 breaches of condition and 1 unauthorised sign. You can see the trends in, members. So the December live caseload has crept up again because there's such a significant submission of enforcement cases then in December. was still below a peak there in September. So for a fairly short month, I suppose, it's maybe better to look at the long-term trends. So details then of the stages of the investigation are set out in 2.5. So a total of 224 cases at the minute, Chair. So paper just for note.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. And I'll take any comments or proposed. Councillor O'Reilly, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It's good to see that we certainly in October, November there, we were going in the right direction. And I suppose it's a bit like crime statistics. It's very hard to argue that if we're seeing a spike in the actual cases coming in, that we're actually seeing unauthorized and potentially dangerous situations being looked at. So in that respect, we're doing the job. I suppose when you look back to July and August, there was certainly a spike there as well. It might be interesting to, or I certainly would be interested in maybe other members on the committee as well, to look at a year's worth to sort of see why we're having particular trends at particular times, or if there is anything we can learn from what we're seeing. But otherwise, Chair, I'm happy to propose.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And Councillor Riley, we had planned to bring that as part of the annual report, looking at the annual trends, but it's something we can put in the updates moving forward if that's a preference. A bar graph looking at the longer trends over a few years, So I think looking at a short trend doesn't give you a fair reflection. And I think just in my own sort of looking back and researching, the enforcement caseload has been significantly higher at other parts of the year, previous years, So it might appear that it's creeping up again, but it's probably a fair reflection of where we're at and the amount of cases that we're getting. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. And Councillor Irvine and Councillor Thompson are indicating. So go ahead, Councillor Irvine, firstly.
Thanks very much, Chair. Paul, all information is useful, basically, and I think if we're bringing a report back with regard to either 6-monthly or 12-monthly, as Tom suggested, maybe we can actually delve into the types of cases that are being reported on, and also what the tailback in them is. I know we get statistics about the clearance rate, but it mightn't do any harm if there are some that are, maybe 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, year old, long, just to find out if there's issues around that, please.
Thank you. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And look, yeah, members, we're happy to explore that and we can present that information as best we can. I think the portal's just sometimes slightly difficult in terms of enforcement to get the data, and what we don't want to do is prejudice any cases as well. But look, we can prepare some further bar charts and bring those forward, and then if members have any further comments or want to refine it in any way, then we can do that as well. So, but there's no problem. We'll look at that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Big thanks to our officers for putting all this together. I agree with the comments of Councillor Irvine. Maybe some more work can be done. See where we could go with that one. But I'm prepared to second to note the correspondence. Or the yeah. Thank you.
Okay, that's set noted. Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly.
Yes, Chair. Just prompted by my good colleague here. Also, if we could maybe, and on the back of what Paul said there, just include something on the basis of the quality of complaint, that we are not loading the system with complaints that we then find are just a series of work sort of programs. And also a little bit, as Robert was indicating there, are some of these months' statistics sitting as the tails that were still tails back a year ago, and that sort of rump, as it were, sort of sits there as a base start line nearly every month, and that the differential between that and what we're getting in on a monthly basis.
Yep, no, that's a fair point. It is indeed, Councillor. Being noted then, thank you. So item 9 then is to note the planning appeals decisions in December 2025. That's paper F. Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So planning appeals then, members, in December. There was five appeal decisions issued then in December by the Commissioner again. Just suppose they put on record all the work of Seamus and the other officers that's been involved in these appeals. Quite a lot of work, and sometimes visits then as well. So appeal number 1 then, members, relates to the refusal of an outline planning permission for a dwelling. That appeal was dismissed. It was a dwelling under the infill policy. It was one that was refused at the Planning Committee in February 2025. So you can see the map there, members, it's snipped in. The Commission found that the site was within an otherwise substantial and continuously built up frontage. However, they agreed with the Council that the site did not constitute a small gap capable of only accommodating 2 dwellings. So again, members, just giving us the assurance that the approach within the committee then is the right approach. Appeal 2 then, members, relates to Clover peat products, and that was an appeal against an enforcement notice. That enforcement notice was in relation to alleged unauthorised raising of ground levels by the importation of hardcore, that being material and rubble. So the appellant withdrew that appeal on the 19th of December, and the enforcement notice is now effective. The third appeal then, members, was the refusal of planning permission for a proposed farm dwelling with attached garage, and that was to supersede previous permissions. Again, this appeal was dismissed. The appeal concerned a proposed 2-storey dwelling on the Camlock Road in Carrickmore. It was refused by officers under delegated authority. The Commission agreed with the Council that the proposed site didn't visually link or cluster with the existing buildings on the holding, and it failed to meet HU 11. And the Commissioner also agreed that the appeal site was open and exposed. I suppose something that's been debated in this committee a few times now is then the reliance on new landscaping, and the Commissioner also commented that as well, saying that the proposal was heavily reliant on new planting, which would take time to establish, and that wasn't acceptable. So that application or that appeal was dismissed as well then, members. Appeal number 4 then related to the unauthorised erection of a roof, and again that was in relation to an enforcement notice that had been served by officers. The substantive matter in this appeal, members, was whether the actual construction of the roof, putting the roof back on the building, was development. Officers had felt that it was development. But the owner and the developer had felt that it wasn't development, and that's ultimately why it went to appeal. And the Commissioner had found in the Council's favour that it was actually development, because the roof had been off the building for so long. But ultimately there was a ground day appeal on the planning application as part of that notice, and the Commissioner allowed the appeal. The Commissioner did say, because of close proximity to a third party, then that the building should not be used for the keeping of livestock. So that appeal was allowed. Appeal number 5 then, members, relates to the retention of an underground slurry storage tank with a rigid cover. That appeal was dismissed as well. This was an application that was before the Planning Committee. Members might remember it well. The main issues in the appeal were in relation to whether the tank was necessary for the efficient use of the farm holding, and whether it would have an impact on residential amenity of a third party. So the Commissioner found that the tank was necessary for the efficient use of the agricultural holding at Ross McCaffrey Road to store slurry for the farm business. So he accepted that point. However, the Commissioner felt that there would be an impact from the tank, and that reason for refusal that the Council had presented then was sustained. So you'll also see there, members, something that also be debated in this chamber. The applicant had referred to a number of other cases, but the Commissioner said that he was given that little weight because all cases are fact specific and must be considered on their own merits. So that's it, Chair. It's really just for noting. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Quite a bit in that report, and not without a lot of effort with officers, as you say. Councillor O'Reilly, you're indicating there?
Yes, Chair. As you say, good work done there, and a consistency between delegated and committee decisions to issue there. And certainly some of those cases are well ingrained in the memory of the amount of time and effort taken to work through the different issues and come back at them maybe again and work through them and reach decisions. So good to see that that work was recognised by the Commissioner on that occasion. I've been told this before, Chair, but I've forgotten where it says there were no applications for any costs by the council or the appellant. Who picks up that tab? Is that there is rule no cost for going and dealing with those applications? Is that what that means when we see it?
Right.
Sorry, Chair, happy to propose then as well.
Yep, no problem.
So, members, there's certainly a cost to the council associated with going the plan and appeal, and sometimes quite intensive work involved in those appeals, and Seamus can speak to that as well as Darren as well. The costs that the Plan and Appeals Commission would consider would be very specific within their legislation and their guidance. They're allowed to award costs to a party where the other party has acted unreasonably. So the fact that we go to an appeal and we debate the issues, but like we debate them in the committee, one side has one opinion, the other side has another opinion, the Commissioner obviously makes a decision. That wouldn't be a good reason then, if you win or lose, to be making an application for costs. It's really where through unreasonable behaviour you might submit new information at a late stage, or some other type of unreasonable behaviour that puts the council to further additional cost, then that we could recover that. And you have to make an application for it as well and set out all the reasons, which can be quite difficult too. So, but I think there's been some claims for cost against the council, which we've been able to defend, and there's some applications that the council have made for costs. Not too often that it happens, Councillor, to be honest, but and I think we were aware of costs as well. Like, you probably have to remember, it's always the applicant that'll pay it. So it was only, you'd only be engaging where there's been unreasonable behaviour and it's put us to unnecessary cost.
Okay, thank you for that clarity, Paul. That's been proposed to note. Seconded by Councillor Butlahari. Sorry, Councillor McGrath.
Just on the tank, I don't want to go back over it again, but does the tank have to be filled back in again? And if so, who schools that? Who makes sure that the tank's left back the way it is? Or the land's left back the way it is?
I will take that one, Councillor. So the notice requires the removal of the tank. So it's the removal of the lid and the four walls and the base, and then the land has to be restored, then filling it again with just inert material. So that's what the notice requires, and the applicant now has to comply with the notice.
Thank you, Darren. Okay, that's been noted, members, that report. Item 10 then is to consider the quarterly update on live planning caseload. That's quarter 2, 25 to 26, paper G, and Paul will take us through it there.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, members, this is an update on the live planning caseload then for quarter 2, which is July, August and September of 25-26. So the table highlights, members, the total applications received in the live planning caseload, indicating then the length of time in the system, and also includes a comparative analysis then from the previous quarter and then the same quarter the previous year. So The total number of applications then received in Q2 is 179. That's down. There's a decrease then in the applications when you compare that to Q2 of last year and then the previous quarter. In terms of live applications and members, at the end of Q2, there were 326 live applications in the system. And that's an increase from Q1 and a reduction from Q2 the previous year of 8% members. So I suppose focusing on the table members, when you look at the change, the longer trend change from Q2 last year, always looking at the longer trends. When you look at under 6 months, that's went down by 16%. Over 12 months has actually went down by 22% as well, and the total's been down by 8%. So live caseload is going in the right direction when you take a longer trend look at it, members. So Chair, papers just for noting. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor O'Reilly.
Chair, I do appreciate the graphs and the information, and certainly it makes it much easier to track the various work going through the department and to have some input onto it. I suppose it's concerning that there is a downward trend in the overall applications, and I would be reassured, Chair, more reassured, Chair, if I could get a breakdown of those applications that are Fermanagh based as opposed to Tyrone based or Omagh based. I get the impression just from seeing the lists on a monthly basis that there seems to be an awful lot more applications based in the Omagh side of the council area. And I'm just, I suppose, concerned that we don't see in small villages and so forth, and I appreciate that I beat this drum quite a bit, that we're not seeing the regeneration of villages and businesses and applications for them, and application for housing projects in them and so forth, and that we're seeing those in Enniskillen and Omagh. And while those two towns not saying haven't got difficulties, but are certainly seeing the applications, whether they ever get built, I definitely, to my mind, see a lack of applications coming towards small villages, and that is no thing that we can do anything about. It's about the application. But I think it's important that we are conscious, at least, of where the applications are or are not. And maybe they're working out fairly thing, but just geographically, size-wise, percentage to the Omagh area, to the Fermanagh area, I have the feeling that we are getting less applications in the Fermanagh area. I don't know if that's a major one to try and track or reduce. Happy to propose as well.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I suppose, members, as part of the live caseload update for the 6 month or 12-month period, we could look at maybe the totals and breaking those down by DEA. Might give members an indication. I think, look, we do our best to encourage applications, and we have the pad system and all there. I think it is a trend that's regional, members, unfortunately, that there is a downward application submissions. I think there's been more submitted maybe in just in advance of Christmas there period, so it does fluctuate from time to time, so it might be better to have a longer look at the trends. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Feely.
Yeah, I'd be happy to second Thomas's proposal.
Second that report. Thank you. Other indications? In that case, we move then to consider a report on planning performance statistical report for Q2 25-26. That's paper H.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and members. This is the statistical report then for the second quarter, and there's some duplication between the reports. So members are not going to go through it all in detail. I suppose focus on the key points. So I suppose the headline point, members, is that the Council has met the performance target for the processing of local applications and enforcement in Q2 of 25 and 26. Unfortunately, we haven't met the major processing target. I suppose largely a result of consultee delays, I would say, and it is finely balanced, members. There's fewer numbers of major applications decided. So, but hopefully by the end of the year, we may be able to meet that target. In terms of then the specifics then, members, in terms of major applications, there have been 4 major applications received during Q2 and 1 decided. Local applications then, members, 175 local applications were received. 173 decisions were issued, with an average processing time for local applications in Q2 of 9.4 weeks. The target's 15 weeks, members, and the Northern Ireland average then is 19.2. So local applications, which make up the bulk of what we're deciding, members, fairly good, healthy state of where we're at. In terms of enforcement then, members, in Q2 then 75% of cases were concluded within the target of 39 weeks. And the year to date, I think the percentage is actually in the 80s. The approval rate then, members, is sitting at 97.1% for the Council. That's the 3rd highest approval rate in Northern Ireland, and again compares to the Northern Ireland average rate of 95.5%. So really good approval rate, members. So most applications are actually approved by the Council. Some additional non-statutory performance indicators, members, set out towards the end of the report. And maybe just looking at CLUDs and the processing time for CLUDs specifically, which don't require consultations. They're matters that we can decide ourselves based on the information, and the processing time's 4 weeks. So it just shows you, members, I suppose, when it's matters that we can consider ourselves and process ourselves, and we can do them very efficiently. So it's just to thank the team, I suppose, members, and yourselves as well. In terms of the performance, it really is good, and hopefully we can meet the major target by the end of the year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Absolutely. Well done to the team, as always. Some very positive statistics. So Councillor O'Reilly has proposed to note. Seconded by Councillor Robinson. Thank you. We're moving on now to item 12, and that is correspondence. And Sinead is going to take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. So the first item of correspondence then is an update from Chief Planner. I think this is probably the first of these that we have probably seen in a while, and I think probably really welcome this, because I think the update then that's appended to the cover letter really, I suppose, really summarises, I suppose, some of the key things that have been happening that we have been reporting through to committee on. But I think it's really it's important and useful to see those summarised into that Chief Planner update. So we look forward probably to more of these coming out in due course from the Chief Planner team. So the correspondence is for noting, Chair.
Thank you, Sinead. Take a proposal to note. Councillor Thompson proposing to note, I believe. Do you want it, Councillor?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks to Sinead. I think this is a very useful piece that's coming towards us now. I'm prepared to note it. I think it'll be beneficial for us all as members of the Planning Committee, officers, and indeed agents. So I'm happy to propose to note, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Proposed and a seconder to note then, Councillor Rainey. Thank you. And we have item 12.2 now.
Thank you, Chair. So the next item of correspondence then, members will note, is a response to correspondence that we had issued out to Northern Ireland Water. So members will recall that we had resolved that we would write to NI Water following some concerns around information that we had received from NI Water, which had been I suppose classified and marked as officially sensitive. So members just had raised concerns about the restrictions that were placed on that access to information, and set out, I suppose, how members see, I suppose, the concerns around that. So we'd written to NI Water And just to note then that there were a series of other similar letters that issued out, and members will notice that the kind of CC at the bottom of our letter that we'd written to the Minister, the Executive Office, and then to the various different Northern Ireland Assembly party leaders. So this is, I suppose, the first of those responses to that series of correspondence. So members will note then NI Water have responded to this. They have, I suppose, set out, I suppose, in very broad terms, their, I suppose, rationale for the classification of the information that has come before us. And I suppose noting that the information is at a point in time. So it's a snapshot at a point in time, which obviously officers and members do understand that is the case in relation to that information. And then the letter goes on just to explain, I suppose, the different or the other platforms that are available should we wish to seek, or should a developer wish to seek information from NI Water in relation to capacity or in relation to a particular development. And they've concluded just the next step then if we weren't happy with the particular response. So response is for noting, Chair.
Thank you, Sinead. Councillor Maguire. Go ahead, sorry.
Carly, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Sinead, for that. Again, the response is as expected, but definitely the issue was raised because previously the information was made public to the committee, R&C committee of the council, and then it became sensitive as such. And it's funny how information becomes sensitive when your performance is decreasing and getting worse month on month. So it's convenient for NI Water to just withdraw their information. It's less accessible to us as councillors, and regardless of what they say, I'd still say it's less accessible to the public. At least we can't inform the public as we used to be able to when the whole council was issued with the report. But having said that, I don't think it's worth proposing any further action in notifying. I think the answer is going to be similar, but I was happy enough to raise the issue, and whereas I'm not particularly happy with the response, but propose the note, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a second or any further comments? Councillor McGrath, second the noting of that. And some other correspondence.
Thank you, Chair. So the next piece of correspondence then is from NILGA. So it's in relation to the planning, learning and engagement programme. So I suppose ultimately, Chair, the correspondence is for the SEEK nominations. So members will note that the NILGA has referred to a task and finish advisory group. And the request is that we would have nominations from our planning committee then to participate in that advisory group. So we do have a bit of time to respond. We have until the 28th of February. So we can take nominations today, Chair, members, if we're content, or we can certainly follow up on that. So happy to take members' feedback on that.
Thank you. Any comments? We do have some time for nominations to come in, but if there's any today, we'll take them as well. If not, I would take a proposal to note then for now. Councillor Robinson, second to Councillor McCann. Thank you. It's all correspondence. Oh yeah. Yep. Paul is going to take us through another additional piece of correspondence.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Members, so this is correspondence from Donegal County Council. It's in relation to a proposed variation of the County Donegal Development Plan and associated environmental reports. Members, you'll see the deadlines there within the correspondence. The consultation's open from the Friday the 16th of January to Friday the 13th of February. Officers have reviewed the papers associated with the consultation, members. I think it's just important to note we had commented on the draft Donegal development plan, the composite plan in June 24, I think it was, and then the strategic environmental assessment and the strategic reports. We had provided comment on that on February 25. These variations, members, relate the sort of local site-specific sites in terms of housing and phase 1 and phase 2 sites and all, members. So I think it would be officers' opinion that we wouldn't need to submit a substantive response. our previous comments have been taken into account. There's no conflict with our own plan strategy, and I think members really would just send back a notification saying we welcome the consultation and the ability to comment, but we have no further comments and refer them back to our previous comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Feely,
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I can propose that.
happy to propose that. Councillor Feely, seconded by Councillor McGrath. That is agreed. Okay. We have no further correspondence. Item 12.3, or item 13 is any other urgent and relevant business, and I haven't been contacted regarding that, so nothing to discuss. So part 2 then is confidential. So I'll take a proposer to go in. Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Yep, we're okay now. So we're back. So I'm just going to ask Sinead to provide a summary.
Thank you, Chair. So while in confidential business, members received a report on a legal matter and noted the recommendations of that report, and members also considered a report on advance notice of listings and agreed the recommendations of that report, and also received an update on future dates for LDP steering group meetings.
Okay, thank you for that. A proposal then, Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McCann to confirm that update. With that, members, I suppose we're bringing the meeting to a close. I neglected, apologies, to welcome back Councillor McCann. I did it in person prior to the meeting commencing, but it's like you never left, Councillor. You know, it's a seamless return, taking the ball off McElduff and the half-time change and sprung off the bench. And I know Barry likes all his football references, so I'll throw all them in. Running off the shoulder, Councillor. But I would welcome you back, and I'd also acknowledge Councillor McElduff's contribution as well and stepping up in that role. And thank him for his time on the committee as well. So thank you, members. The meeting is ended.
Thank you. Bye.